How much do you pride yourself on your creativity, and how much do you, I guess, make sure you don't go overboard in trying to scheme up so many different things?
Yeah, it can be hard because there's always, what if we did this, or it fits our personnel this way, so we could do it this way. And we are here and we watch a lot of the same guys, or the same games everybody watches. We watched the Purdue Notre Dame game, and the Purdue guy throws it back to the quarterback. And we watched the Lions game last night, with Coach Rolls there, and they run the cool option play. So the light bulb goes on all the time. So it's hard, not to just put your foot on the gas pedal and overdo it, but it still comes back to us on what do our guys know and what can we go out there and do well, and how does it fit our guys. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. You don't want to overdo it because they're all good ideas and you can't run them all. So sometimes we'll start with a bunch of stuff and narrow it down throughout the week, and sometimes they hit and you like it, and sometimes they don't, but you got a feeling on it and you run it, kind of like some stuff last year, but it can be tough.
This is the nice thing when you identify some of those other plays from watching other games. You can just file it away in like a secret vault or something, and you can just, hey, maybe we'll dip into that in week 6 or something. You know what I mean? That They're there, but they're not necessarily something you're repping all the time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we have a library with that stuff, and the other part of it too is like, will Campbell yell at me if it doesn't work? I think about that a little bit too, so that's in the back of my mind.
You've mentioned before, it took a while before Jaden became Jaden. Just from your experience and observation, what would you say are like the biggest hurdles that it takes for newcomers to learn the Iowa State offense?
I think more than anything, like the fear of failure. Like you think you know what it's like to get out here and play in Jack Trice in front of all the fans, and the situations. Even, you play a tough game down at Arkansas State. They're all going to be tough games. Like, it's hard to put yourself in those situations, and sometimes you have to fail and realize, like, it's going to be okay. Like, I can handle it, and then you're not afraid of, the what ifs of it going wrong a little bit, and you become a little bit more callous, and you can go out there and be fearless. And it's a mentality thing, and the way, I tell those guys to grow, real confidence is through failure and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. And it's tough to do that for anybody. It's tough to do that for 18 to 22-year-old guys. So just giving them the platform to go out there and fail and be okay and grow, which you could do that at Iowa State, and, we can put your arm around you and be okay. So it's a tough pill to swallow, but everybody grows in different ways.
What are your thoughts on Tyler Moore's progression and just the way that he's kind of grown, especially since last year?
Yeah, we don't have a tougher kid on our team than Tyler Moore. Like, you talk about a guy that eats nails and is the same guy every single day and will run through a forest blindfolded, whatever kind of toughness saying you want to say about Tyler, like, he checks all of those boxes, and he'll do whatever it takes for this football team. Like, he was a freshman, on that 21 team that he got to learn from the Charlie Kolars and the Chase Allens, and just kind of the do whatever it takes mentality. And it doesn't matter if he's played 8 snaps or he's played 50 snaps. When that guy number gets called, it's going to be 1,000 miles an hour, and it's going to be violent, and he'll do whatever it takes to help us, make the play successful. And it doesn't matter if he's the running back. He was against Iowa. We can put him attached. We can put him split out. He's a do whatever it takes. He's as much of a team guy as you'll find in football.
I think we saw it at the end of the Iowa game where you guys were content to give the game over to Conradi without being super aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, given his length and reliability, how much does that influence your thinking, either play calling or just aggressiveness level, once you guys cross the 50?
It does a lot, and especially you get to that area of the field where you feel like you're in Kyle's range, and there's a part of it like, what can we do to advance the football? I don't always want to take the ball out of Rocco's hands either, because we're better when the ball's in that guy's hands and he could go make plays. So it gives you flexibility when you have a guy like Kyle that's confident from, anywhere. When you cross the 50-yard line, you don't have to do too much, even though it's not necessarily the most fun play call at times, but when you have a guy like that, it allows you to put your team in the best spot to be successful and allow your guys that are really talented to win you football games. And sometimes, just kind of like the question earlier, like, you don't have to overthink it at times and let your guys do what they do well.
I guess sometimes you have to, like, 3 is a win here. Like, we want to
Yeah.
get 7, but 3 is a successful.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, how can we advance the play and get the ball in the middle of the field, or get the ball to the right or left hash, wherever Kyle wants it. Like, we're in the range. He wants the ball here. This is, the safest way to get the ball there where, you don't feel like you're going to put the team in jeopardy with a turnover or something like that.
Round 2 against Coach Veit. What did you learn from last time and are expecting this week?
Yeah, Coach Veit's such a great football coach, and I've only worked for Coach Campbell, and he's like a true dear friend to me. Like, he taught me a lot as a young coach here, and he's going to have those guys playing hard and being physical and doing everything that they can to win the line of scrimmage. And they're violent, they're downhill, they're physical, and all the unique wrinkles that we had last year, like he's going to have them sniffed out. So how can we be able to, do what we did last year and add some wrinkles to it and be able to do what we do successful, and what have we done versus our defense, because, they're the similar style. What have we done, well versus our guys in spring ball and fall camp, and even throughout the week we go against those guys on Tuesdays and Wednesdays on call-up periods. So it's hard sometimes because you know each other so well. You're like, well, he knows I'm going to be thinking this, but he doesn't know that I know he's thinking that I'm thinking this, and then you kind of go back and forth a little bit, and it gets weird. He's such a good football coach and such a great guy, and his guys play so hard. That game is going to be a battle at the line of scrimmage and a battle of physicality, and who can win. That nose guard that they have is unbelievable. It'll be a great challenge for us, just him, let alone the scheme that Coach Veit's going to have, and he's going to have a good one.
Trevor Bohr made his debut for you guys at Arkansas State. Now seems like you guys have full health on the interior of the offensive line. How do you handle having 3 guys for 2 spots at guard, or 4 guys for 3 spots across the interior altogether?
Yeah, I think for us it gives us some flexibility that we can play, similar to tight end a little bit. Like, you have guys that are talented that you trust, and you could play a guy that's fresh. You're not afraid to sub a guy in who's played a lot of football. Sometimes when you start subbing offensive linemen, it gets weird with the timing on your combos. It gets weird with the communication across the board because you're echoing, combos and IDs and mic points. I don't feel like we feel that way with Trevor or Dylan or, BB. Those guys can all go in, and hopefully, if you get in a game where it's 110 on the field like it was last week, you could play the guy that's getting fresh. And we were trying to acclimate Trevor a little bit with his, first time coming back from being sick. And, he did a good job, and he's only going to get better once he starts to get the weight that he lost back also. So for us, like, all 3 of those guys are trusted. I think, allowing those guys to be able to feel good about taking a series off, to be able to be fresh, knowing they're going to have to go in and play again. So for us, it'll be more of a rotational thing to keep those guys fresh because they're all trusted and they're all talented.
And how does Jim Boniface factor into that as the center position? Traditionally, that's not a position that you want to change the synergy between the quarterback, but does he factor into that rotation at all now as well? Yeah,
he's so trusted. He's one of the leaders that we have on the offense to make sure that we are IDing the runs right, and he gets the play started, and the ball's in his hands every time, and it injects, a lot of confidence into me, into Rocco, into the offensive line. Dylan Barrett's a guy that's played center. It can be different when you have different communications and things like that a little bit. But when you have a guy like Rocco that does such a good job of taking control at the line of scrimmage and making sure just like the timing of the motions and the plays and the cadence is all the same, then I don't think it makes it as big of a deal. But Jim is as trusted and reliable as anybody that we have on the offense.
Coach, Fox shared the story during the Cyhawk game about you choosing Matt Campbell over an ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, I got some heat for that from my wife. That was fun.
Well, where does that loyalty come from, and is there any regret in that?
No, Coach, there's no regret. That's a good question. Coach Campbell was she's the best, and she gets it. And Coach Campbell, I applied and reached out to a million football coaches on all different levels, and Coach Campbell's the only guy that returned my call, that reached out to me, that said there was an opportunity to go there when nobody else would text me back, email me back, call me back, and really had no business doing it because I was a Division II defensive lineman, and I didn't have a relationship with him. There was no reason for him to trust me outside of just a hunch. So I never forget that. It doesn't matter what job I've had here, from intern to graduate assistant to recruiting to tight ends coach to offensive quality control. Like, it's all to pay him back and to pay the football team back for being one of the only people that gave me a chance. And, to bring me here, like I said, I met my wife here. We have 2 incredible kids. Like, getting the relationships that I have, some of my best friends I get to work with here, some of my best friends I know here. So, he changed the outlook of my life with just one return of a phone call, and I don't forget that ever for that guy.
And then Arizona, what have you seen from them? What's been the biggest reason they've improved defensively from last year?
Their defense is a problem. They made some really good adjustments from last year, and they're different than probably anything that at least I've seen since I've been with Coach Campbell. And just the changes that they've made from last year, the way that the defense runs the football, the blitzing, the twisting, the differences in fronts, it's a real challenge. And credit to those guys for the turnaround they've made. They have a lot of seniors on the defense that play really, really hard, and it's fun to watch, and it'll be an incredible challenge to us. But that defense that they have is really, really good, and they're going to be tough for us next week and for a lot of people going forward. They've done a great job.
Coach, I was curious about your running back rotations when you have two guys in Abu and Carson who are kind of different skill sets, equally good in their own way. When you're going into a game, is it kind of preconceived how you want to divvy up the running back rotation, or is it going to be, based on the hot hand? Like, I feel like in some games we've seen Carson take the bulk of the carries in the fourth quarter. Just personally for you, how do you go about doing that during the game?
Yeah, there's certainly a little bit in the back of my mind of who's in for which scheme that I think personally is better. And as the game goes, it'll go to the hot hand of who's trusted and who's feeling, and sometimes they're just seeing the game a little bit better. But for me, at least when you're scripting the openers, it's can we get him here and get him going with one of his favorite runs? And it's all about just like no different even than Rocco, like how can we build confidence through the offense, for Rocco, for the offensive line, for Ben and Gabe, and then for Carson and Abu. Like those guys have their favorite plays, and I feel like I know what their favorite runs are that, can remind, Coach Landry will tell me who he's thinking about going to the game, then I could go to this spot on the call sheet and think about these runs that I think fit those guys a little bit better than as the second half gets there, the fourth quarter goes, we could play the hot hand and feel pretty good and still feel good about rotating those guys. Like very rarely, am I ever even asking Coach Landry, like, hey, what running back are you going with? Like I trust that guy to put the right guy in, and then seeing who's in, then, you can change your outlook a little bit. But both those guys have made great plays for us here, and I trust them to do anything for us on offense.